I waited until they were gone before calling a locksmith to change every lock and having a full security system installed. If you're hearing this, hit subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Now let me explain how I ended up hiding inside my own house, watching my daughter-in-law confidently give unauthorized tours as though she owned it. No one could have predicted this mess. Just 3 months earlier, my life looked completely different. I was Margaret Stevens, 63 years old, a recent widow, and foolish enough to believe my son Kevin and his wife Rebecca genuinely cared about me. After my husband Henry's funeral, they'd been so attentive, constantly worrying about me living alone in the old family home. "Mom, you need something fresh in your life, something to make you excited again," Kevin said one evening, holding my hand as if I were made of glass. Rebecca nodded, all sympathy and warmth. "We just want to see you happy again," she said softly. What they really wanted was my inheritance. At the time, I was naive enough to mistake their sudden interest in my finances for genuine concern. So when I casually mentioned Henry's life insurance payout, I caught the way their eyes lit up, like children spotting presents under a Christmas tree. "You should invest in something stable," Rebecca suggested with a practiced smile. "Maybe real estate?" Kevin chimed in right away. "Something that will give you security and a sense of purpose, Mom." So when I stumbled upon a listing for a gorgeous Victorian mansion on Elm Street, I fell in love instantly. A wraparound porch, 6 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, and enough space to host my grandkids who rarely visited anymore. I could already picture Christmas dinners, summer barbecues, and a home that would finally bring us all together. The asking price was steep, but Henry's insurance covered it. And here's where I made my first smart move. I told no one. Something about Rebecca's tight smile whenever I spent money on myself made me keep this a secret. I purchased the house through a trust, hired a property management company, and kept my plans completely quiet. For 6 weeks, I had contractors working around the clock. Fresh paint, a fully remodeled kitchen, restored hardwood floors, manicured landscaping, the works. I wanted it to be perfect. I even rehearsed how I'd hand them the keys, imagining their shock and joy when I revealed I'd bought this dream home for them. Instead, I got the shock of my life. The morning I planned my big surprise, I arrived early to walk through the finished house one last time. The chandeliers sparkled, the marble countertops gleamed, and the master bedroom looked like something straight out of a luxury magazine. My heart was pounding with excitement as I called Kevin. "Can you and Rebecca meet me for lunch? I have something wonderful to show you," I said, practically bursting with anticipation. "Actually, Mom, we're out looking at houses today," Kevin replied carefully. "We think we found the perfect one for our family expansion." That last word made me pause. "Are you having another baby?" I asked, surprised. "Not exactly," Kevin said. "We're thinking about having Rebecca's parents move in with us. Her mom's arthritis is getting worse, and her dad needs help with his medications. We really need a bigger place." I smiled to myself, thinking the timing couldn't be better. "That's wonderful, honey. Where are you looking?" Kevin hesitated before replying. "This beautiful Victorian on Elm Street. 6 bedrooms, big kitchen, perfect for everyone. The only problem is the price. It's way out of our range." My stomach dropped. They were describing my house. At first, I thought they'd just be disappointed when they realized they couldn't afford it. But then I made a split-second decision. "Kevin," I said carefully, "what if I helped with the down payment? Think of it as an early inheritance." The excitement in his voice was instant. "Mom, that would be amazing. Are you sure? It's a lot of money." "I'm sure," I said, trying to steady my nerves. "Text me the address and I'll meet you there in an hour." As I sat in the pristine new kitchen, staring at my phone, I thought this could actually work out better than I'd imagined. Instead of simply handing them the house, I could let them feel like they'd chosen it themselves. They'd feel proud and independent, not like charity cases. But when I drove up to Elm Street and saw Rebecca pacing the front yard like a queen surveying her land, something in me shifted. She was on the phone, gesturing dramatically, talking about her garden plans and her master suite. I parked across the street and watched in silence as Kevin joined her. They spent nearly half an hour measuring windows, discussing furniture placement, and talking as if they already owned the place. That's when the truth sank in. I hadn't just bought them a gift. I'd handed them power they weren't going to use kindly. When they finally waved me over, I plastered on my best smile and let them give me a tour of my own house. "Look at this kitchen, Margaret," Rebecca gushed, caressing the marble counters I'd chosen. "I can already see myself hosting parties here. And this master bedroom." She led me upstairs to the sanctuary I'd designed for myself. "Perfect for Kevin and me," she declared. "Your room could be next to the guest bathroom. Small but comfortable." I nodded politely, but inside I was stunned. In my home, the one I'd paid for in full, I'd been demoted to the smallest bedroom. Kevin's enthusiasm matched Rebecca's. "The layout's perfect, Mom. You'd love this community, quiet streets, friendly neighbors, a park you could walk to every day." I kept smiling, but inside I was calculating. They'd already decided this was their home, with me as the elderly relative tucked away in a tiny room, grateful just to be there. The money I'd use for the down payment would turn into their equity, their investment, their property, while I was reduced to a guest. Rebecca's voice broke my thoughts. "The only issue is that the sellers want cash. No financing allowed." "It's some kind of trust sale," she sighed dramatically. "Even with your help, Margaret, we'd need the full purchase price up front. That's basically your entire inheritance." Kevin added a heavy sigh of his own. "It's heartbreaking, really. So close to perfect and just out of reach." They stood there looking defeated, and I realized this was a crossroads moment. I could reveal the truth that I already owned the house and see their joy, or I could wait and see just how far they'd go. "What if you looked at something smaller?" I suggested lightly. Rebecca's smile tightened. "Margaret, this house is perfect for us. Kevin's father would have wanted us to invest in our family's future. This is exactly the kind of thing he'd encourage." Her casual manipulation knocked the breath out of me. She was using Henry's memory to justify spending his life insurance money on their dream home. "You're right," I said slowly. "Henry always wanted us to make wise choices. Let me sleep on it." That evening, I sat at my old kitchen table, the deed for the mansion in front of me, my name bold and clear as the owner. I had been so excited to hand them this gift, but now I wasn't sure I should give them anything. The next morning, Kevin called before I'd even finished my coffee. "Mom," Rebecca barely slept. "We really think this could be the fresh start our family needs." "I know it's beautiful," I said evenly. "Well, there's a problem. The realtor says another family is already looking at it. They might put in an offer today." I almost laughed out loud. There was no other family, no competing bid. I owned the place. Kevin was lying, trying to pressure me. "That's too bad," I said calmly. "Mom, we need to act fast. If you're serious about helping us, we should put in a full cash offer today." "You're talking about my entire inheritance," I said quietly. "I know it's a lot to ask, but think about it. You'd have a beautiful home near family to take care of you. It's a solid investment. Take care of me. In the smallest bedroom, while they built wealth with my money." "Let me call the realtor myself," I said firmly. "If I'm investing this much, I need to speak with them directly." Kevin hesitated. Rebecca's been handling all the communication. She's built a good rapport with the agent." "If I'm writing a check for $350,000, I said, my voice like ice, "I'm speaking to the realtor myself." After hanging up, I called my property manager. "Sarah lists the Elm Street house again. Same price, same terms. If anyone calls, tell them the previous deal fell through." "Mrs. Stevens, you own the property. Why relist it?" she asked, puzzled. because I want to see just how far my family is willing to go. 2 hours later, Kevin called again. Great news, Mom. The other family's offer was rejected. The house is still available, but we should move quickly. I felt something cold settle in my chest. My own son was lying through his teeth, trying to manipulate me into buying a house I'd already purchased. Wonderful, I said smoothly. Set up a meeting with the realtor. All three of us should be there. Actually, Rebecca thinks it might be simpler if you just wire the money now. Then we can handle the details. Of course she did. The following morning, I got the most manipulative text of my life. Mom, the sellers accepted another offer. We lost the house. Rebecca's devastated. I looked around at the boxes filling my kitchen. Kevin didn't know I'd been packing the night before, preparing to move into my own house alone. That's disappointing, I texted back. I'm sure you'll find something else. Within the hour, Rebecca called, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. Margaret, I'm so sorry. Kevin told me how excited you were about the garden and that big kitchen. Funny. I'd never told anyone I was excited about those things. She was trying to plant a narrative. These things happen, I said coolly. Deals fall through all the time. Maybe it'll go back on the market. There was a pause, and then she tried again. If you're still willing to help us, we should stay in touch with the agent. Just in case. Persistent. Calculating. Keeping me emotionally hooked. I'll think about it, I said. That afternoon, I drove by the house one last time before my move. I wanted to savor the moment when I'd walk through that front door not as a burden, but as the rightful owner. But then I saw Rebecca's car parked in the driveway. I parked down the block and watched. Rebecca was pacing around the yard with a woman I didn't recognize, pointing at windows and gesturing toward the landscaping I'd paid for, as if she were showing off her property. After 20 minutes of animated conversation, Rebecca pulled out a key and unlocked the front door. A key she wasn't supposed to have. A key to my house. I gripped the steering wheel, fury bubbling in my chest as I watched them stroll inside. Within minutes, I saw Rebecca pull out a measuring tape. They weren't browsing a listing. They were planning where to put their furniture. I immediately called Sarah, my property manager. Has anyone contacted you about showing the Elm Street property? No, Mrs. Stevens, she said. You're the only one with keys. And the listing was taken down yesterday per your request. So how was Rebecca strolling around my home with keys and an attitude like she owned it? That was the moment I made my decision. 2 hours later, a locksmith had replaced every lock in the mansion. By nightfall, I'd hired a security company to install cameras at every door, every window, and in key areas inside the house. If Rebecca wanted to play games, I'd show her she was out of her league. The security system wasn't cheap. Neither were the locksmith's fees. But the next morning, when Rebecca tried to unlock my front door and failed, it was worth every penny. I was sitting in my living room with a fresh cup of coffee when I heard the faint sound of someone jiggling the lock. My phone buzzed with a live camera feed. There she was, standing on my porch, looking confused. She tried again. And again. Then she stomped around to the back door. Same result. Rebecca's face twisted in frustration as she whipped out her phone. Moments later, Kevin was calling me. Mom, the strangest thing happened, he said. Rebecca drove by that house we were looking at, and she thinks someone changed the locks. She's worried there might be squatters or something. I kept my voice even. Why would Rebecca be checking on a house we don't own? There was a pause. She thought she saw broken windows. She was just being a good neighbor. I almost laughed out loud. There were no broken windows. Rebecca had been trying to get inside a home she believed was lost to other buyers. Kevin, I said slowly, how did Rebecca get a key to that house? Another pause. Longer this time. What key? The one she used this morning. I saw her on my security cameras. Silence. Finally, Kevin's voice came out tight. Mom, what security cameras? The ones I installed yesterday. On my house. The sound Kevin made next was somewhere between a cough and a gasp, like a man whose entire scheme had just crumbled. Your house, he whispered. The house I bought 6 weeks ago. With Henry's life insurance money. The house I've been renovating while you and Rebecca plotted to manipulate me into funding your dream home. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Finally, Kevin spoke. Mom, we need to talk. Yes, Kevin, I said calmly. We certainly do. And maybe start by reminding your wife that trespassing is a crime. That night, I sat in my elegant dining room, eating takeout from a cardboard container because I hadn't unpacked dishes yet. This was supposed to have been a celebratory dinner, toasting my family's new beginning. Instead, I was alone, watching security footage of my daughter-in-law trying to break into the house I bought for them. But here's the thing about rock bottom. Once you climb out, the view is spectacular. Kevin arrived at 8 o'clock sharp, looking like he'd aged 5 years in one day. Rebecca wasn't with him. That told me everything about who was truly behind their little scheme. Kevin sank heavily into one of the new living room chairs I'd chosen myself. A chair I'd selected for comfort and durability, meant to last decades. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mom, he began, his voice low, I don't even know where to start. How about explaining how your wife got a key to my house? I asked, arms crossed. He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. She befriended the property manager's assistant. Told her she was your daughter-in-law and that you'd asked her to check on renovations because you were too emotional after Dad's death. The assistant gave her a key. Family access. I stared at him, stunned at the audacity. So Rebecca's been watching this whole purchase unfold from the shadows. Kevin swallowed hard. She found out 3 days after you bought it. The bank called to verify the wire transfer and she answered your phone. Told them she was your financial power of attorney. My blood ran cold. I never gave her that authority. She knows that. The rep didn't ask for documents. She got enough information to piece it together. I poured myself a glass of wine, noticing how steady my hands were. 6 months ago, this betrayal would have shattered me. Now it felt like confirmation of what I already suspected. So instead of talking to me, you two tried to pressure me into funding a mortgage on a house I already own? Kevin's face crumpled. It was Rebecca's idea. She said if we came at you directly, you'd get defensive about spending so much money. She thought if we made it our idea to buy the house, you'd feel better about helping us. Help you buy a house from me? I asked, voice sharp. He winced. We didn't think you'd want to live here alone. Rebecca figured you'd downsize eventually, maybe move into a retirement community. We thought we could buy it from you at market value. You'd get your money back and some appreciation. Everyone would win. I stared at him, this man I'd raised to be decent and honest, and saw a stranger. Kevin, I said softly, do you hear yourself? You plotted to trick me into giving you money for something I already owned, then sell it back to yourselves later? That's fraud. He put his head in his hands. We didn't mean for it to go this far. Rebecca just got carried away. She started planning, making lists. She thought if she could show you how perfect it would be for all of us. All of us? You mean all of you while I live in the smallest bedroom? That was never. I cut him off by showing him footage on my phone. Rebecca testing keys, circling the house, calling him in frustration when she couldn't get in. This wasn't part of the plan either, I suppose, I said coolly. Kevin's silence spoke louder than words. The next morning, Rebecca called me directly for the first time in months. Her voice was stripped of its sugary sweetness. Margaret, she said sharply, Kevin told me about your little revelation. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Oh, I understand perfectly, I replied. You've been plotting to defraud me. That's a very harsh way to put it, she said, voice hardening. We were trying to find a solution that worked for everyone. I almost laughed. A solution where you get a mansion and I get to fund your mortgage? Fascinating. You're twisting this. We never wanted to hurt you. Rebecca, I said calmly, you impersonated someone with legal authority over my finances. You tricked a property manager into handing over keys. You've been showing my home to strangers without permission. Explain how any of that helps me. There was a long pause. Then her voice turned cold. Fine. You want to play this game? You bought that house just to manipulate us. You knew we were looking in that neighborhood. You bought it to dangle in front of us and snatch away. The accusation was so absurd I actually laughed. Rebecca, I bought this house as a gift for your family. I was planning to surprise you with the deed. Right, she scoffed. That's why you kept it secret for 6 weeks. I kept it quiet because I wanted everything perfect before I surprised you. Contractors worked day and night to make it flawless for you. Another pause. Prove it. What? Prove you bought it as a gift. Show me paperwork saying you intended to transfer ownership to Kevin. That's when it hit me. Rebecca had never once believed I might be generous. To her, every action was a ploy. Every kindness was manipulation. I don't owe you proof of my intentions, I said sharply. But I can prove you've been trespassing. Kevin's your son. Family has a right to respect boundaries, I interrupted. You forfeited that when you decided to lie and scheme. She hung up on me. 20 minutes later, Kevin called. His tone was carefully calm, but I could hear the strain beneath it. Mom, Rebecca's upset, he said. She feels like you're punishing her for caring about our future. Kevin, I replied evenly, your wife has committed multiple crimes. She's not a victim here. Can't we just sit down and talk? Work this out? Find a compromise that works for all of us? I looked around my pristine, sunlit dining room, the same space I'd once dreamed of filling with family laughter. How many times had I sacrificed my peace to make things work for others? Not anymore. I'm done compromising, Kevin. Not when it comes to my safety and my home. For the next 2 weeks, my phone never stopped ringing. Kevin called every morning, Rebecca every afternoon, sometimes together in the evenings. It became predictable. Guilt, bargaining, pleading, anger, then more guilt. Then one morning, Kevin dropped a bombshell. Mom, Rebecca's pregnant. My breath caught. Pregnant. She just found out, he said softly. We weren't going to tell anyone yet, but with everything happening, I recognized that tone. This wasn't just news, it was a weapon. Congratulations, I said carefully. I'm happy for you both. Thanks, Mom. But with a baby coming, we really need this house. Rebecca's already having a hard time with morning sickness. She's worried stress could hurt the pregnancy. Please, Mom. And there it was, the pregnancy card, played right when I'd started feeling strong enough to enforce boundaries. Kevin, I understand needing more space, I said calmly. But there are plenty of homes in your budget. You don't need mine. But this house is perfect, Mom. Rebecca's already picked out nursery colors. I hung up shortly after and called my lawyer. If this was going to escalate, I wanted every detail documented. Mrs. Stevens, he said after I explained everything, your daughter-in-law could be facing charges for identity theft, fraud, and trespassing. Do you want to press charges? I sat there, thinking about my unborn grandchild, about the example this would set if their mother faced jail time for manipulating family. Not yet, I said finally. But document everything. I want to be prepared. That evening, Rebecca showed up at my door alone. She looked exhausted, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly. "Margaret," she said softly, "can we please talk? Just the two of us. No Kevin. And no lawyers." Against my better judgment, I let her in. She perched on the edge of my sofa, looking like she might bolt at any second. "I'm sorry," she began. "I handled everything wrong. When I found out about the house, I panicked. Kevin and we've been struggling more than you know. His business is slow, I haven't worked since we married, and we were behind on rent." It was the first honest thing she'd said in months. "Why didn't you just ask for help?" I asked quietly. Her eyes filled with shame. "Because you've already done so much. You helped with our current down payment, fixed the car last year, bought Kevin Christmas gifts when he couldn't afford them." I was embarrassed. I understood that feeling. Pride can make you do stupid things. "So instead, you chose to trick me," I said flatly. "I thought if I could make it seem like your idea to help us, you'd feel good about it. I thought I was protecting your feelings." Her words should have made me feel better. Instead, they made me furious. Even her apology dripped with condescension, this belief that I was too fragile to handle the truth. "Rebecca," I said, my voice steady, "I've managed my own feelings for 63 years. I don't need your protection." "I know," she whispered. "I made a mistake." "No," I corrected. "You made several. Identity theft, fraud, trespassing, lying to my son." She flinched, her gaze dropping to the floor. "Kevin doesn't know everything," she murmured. I felt my stomach tighten. "What doesn't he know?" Rebecca hesitated, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater as she glanced around my living room, the furniture I'd chosen, the photos I'd hung, the life I'd built without their input. "He doesn't know," she whispered, "that I was planning to convince you to sign the house over to us as an early inheritance, for tax purposes." Cold weight settled in my stomach. "Explain." "My uncle's an accountant," she said quickly. "He told me it'd save thousands in estate taxes if you gave us the house now instead of leaving it in your will." I thought, after we were all living here together for a while, I could bring it up casually. You'd see how happy we all were, and my blood ran cold as her words sank in. The scheme wasn't just about manipulating me into helping them buy the house. She'd been planning to separate me from my assets entirely. And if I refused? I pressed. Rebecca swallowed hard. Then I was going to suggest transferring assets to family members to protect them from nursing home costs. So you'd feel like it was your idea. Every word made my chest tighter. She'd researched this, practiced it, crafted a strategy to make me sign away everything I had. "Rebecca," I said, my voice trembling, not with fear but with anger, "what you're describing is elder financial abuse." Her face went pale. "That's not what this was." "Then what would you call it?" "Systematically planning to trick an elderly family member into signing over their assets?" "I was trying to help our family," she said, her voice defensive now. "No," I snapped. "You were trying to help yourself at my expense." We sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, I could hear the sound of children playing in the neighborhood park, a reminder that normal families didn't operate like this. "What happens now?" Rebecca finally asked. "Now," I said firmly, "you and Kevin figure out your lives without my house or my money. You learn to budget, get second jobs, and raise that baby knowing there's a difference between asking for help and committing fraud." Rebecca started crying then, big, heavy sobs that came from somewhere deep. She finally understood she'd lost everything she'd schemed for. "Margaret, please," she begged, wiping her face. "We can still make this work. You could live here and we'd pay rent. Everyone could have what they need." I looked at her, this woman who had spent months plotting to strip me of my home and security, and felt a wave of sadness more than anger. "Rebecca," I said gently, The fact that you think I'd trust you after everything you've done proves you still don't understand how wrong this is. 6 months later, I hosted my first dinner party in the mansion. Not for Kevin and Rebecca, who were now living in a modest 2-bedroom apartment across town, working to rebuild their marriage on honesty instead of manipulation. Not for Rebecca's parents, who had quietly found another place to live after their daughter's plans imploded. I hosted dinner for my neighbors, the kind couple who brought me flowers when I moved in, the widow across the street who invited me to book club, the young family at the end of the block whose kids helped me carry groceries. In just half a year, these near strangers had shown me more kindness than my own family had in years. Kevin and I were slowly repairing our relationship. He called every Sunday, his voice hesitant but honest. He apologized often, insisted on family therapy, and was finally beginning to see how Rebecca's manipulations had clouded his judgment. Rebecca and I kept things civil. She had given birth to a healthy baby girl, my granddaughter. I visited once a month under Kevin's supervision. Rebecca was polite, but in her eyes I could see she still thought I'd overreacted. She truly believed I should have been grateful for her elaborate schemes. But the real shock came later when my lawyer shared what he'd discovered. "Mrs. Stevens," my lawyer said during one of our follow-up meetings, "you should know, this wasn't Rebecca's first time pulling something like this." I felt a chill run through me. "What do you mean?" He slid a file across his desk. 5 years ago, her grandmother signed over her house to Rebecca's parents. The circumstances were strikingly similar. Fake concerns about maintenance costs, suggestions about tax advantages, and plenty of pressure to make decisions quickly for the good of the family. My heart sank as I flipped through the documents. The handwriting on those notarized forms was shaky, the signatures rushed. "What happened to her grandmother?" I asked quietly. "She passed away in a state-run nursing home 2 years later," he said softly. The house was sold within weeks of her funeral. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. It wasn't desperation that drove Rebecca. This was a learned behavior, polished, perfected, even normalized. She'd grown up in a family that treated manipulation like a strategy. I thought about how close I'd come to the same fate. If I hadn't trusted my instincts, if I'd revealed my purchase too soon, if I hadn't installed those cameras, I could have been another signature on another piece of paper, stripped of everything I owned. But I wasn't. Instead, I was sitting in my elegant dining room, surrounded by neighbors who had chosen to be kind to me, people who valued me for who I was, not for what I could provide. That night, as I was tending to my garden, my phone buzzed with a text from Kevin. "Mom," Rebecca wanted me to ask, "would you consider being the baby's guardian in our will? Just in case something ever happened to us." I stared at the message for a long time. Trust, responsibility, love, and the fine line between helping someone and enabling them. I typed back, "I'll consider it if Rebecca takes a financial literacy course and commits to family therapy for at least a year." Kevin's reply came quickly. "She says that's unnecessary. She just needs a yes or no." I deleted the conversation without replying and went back to planting hydrangeas. Some people never learn. But I had. And sometimes learning enough to protect yourself is the greatest victory of all.